Welcome to the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay. This is your positive path for spiritual living.
Well, I have good news for you. You already are. You already are enlightened. You just don't remember that you're enlightened. That's the problem. This morning, I hope to be able to help you remember, starting by a quick overview of what we've studied thus far. The first of the four agreements is to be impeccable with your word, which means simply to always ensure that the words that you are speaking are always, to the best of your ability, in alignment with the spiritual truth of who you are. And this takes kind of an ongoing monitoring to ensure that what you're telling the world, which is your storyline, which creates your reality, is in alignment with the divine truth of your nature. The second of the four agreements is not to take anything personally. Don't take anything personally, because guess what? This is going to come shocking news to you, I know, but get ready, here you go. The whole world is not about you. The whole world is not about me. And everything that everybody else is saying about you has a whole lot more to do with them than it does with you, because we're always giving reports about self. So don't take anything personally. It's not all about you, and you don't have to make it so. Next, don't make any assumptions. Agreement number 3. Don't make any assumptions. You may recall that we were engaged in the study of that a few weeks ago, and one of the things that Don Miguel Ruiz informed us of was that 95% of what we believe is false, is lies, is untrue. And this makes us walk delicately through the chapters of our life. And by delicately, I mean that we're not out there saying, I know what's right, I know what's wrong, I know what's good, I know what's bad, and you all need to listen to me because I've got it all together here. And you can also have it together like I do. Very, very, very dangerous territory to trot into. Because the reality is you don't know nearly as much as you think you do, nor do I. And it is possible to live your life with a conviction in yourself toward that which you believe, but also with the flexibility to recognize that beliefs are designed to evolve. Belief systems are designed to evolve. And if you keep your eyes and ears open, you'll find that life is always giving you opportunities to challenge the beliefs that you treasure today and the willingness to allow them to evolve, to mature as you grow. So it's just not something that you set in concrete and live with forever. You're evolving, and as an evolving individual, you're going to have a belief system, if it serves you well at all, that will evolve right along with you. Now, of course, all of these 3 agreements are wonderful. I'm totally going to speak in alignment with divine reality. I'm never going to take anything personally, and I'm never going to make an assumption. So I know all of you will be able to leave the room today rooted in those agreements and never have to challenge yourself again. It's a very high ideal, isn't it? It's like when you come in a unity place like this and we tell you, you are an expression of God, of divine, of almighty. How can you possibly establish an ideal that's any higher than that? And it's beautiful to have high aspirations, but it's also very important to be very sensitive and gentle with yourself when you don't make the mark of this high aspiration. Some days you will, and some days you will not. Some days you'll believe you have actually achieved spiritual enlightenment, and then 5 minutes later you crash and burn into human domestication. I speak as one who knows these truths. I go there often. It's a bit of a roller coaster, but it doesn't stay that way forever. It does get better as you begin to disroot yourself from the process of your human conditioning and step into the awareness of what these basic agreements in life are trying to tell you. It's a practice. That's a very important word. We call these spiritual practices because we are seeking to practice our way out of an old identity that doesn't serve us into a new identity that does. And some days you're going to just do heroically well, and other days you won't. So be gentle with yourself. And the last thing you want to do is beat up on yourself, because we've been doing that for quite a while. Have you noticed? I have many scars of many years of living on this planet, and I've done it just about as much as I want to do it. I'm not saying that I'll never do it again, but I am saying it is a fruitless activity to engage yourself in. That is, punishing yourself, hurting yourself, and coming down on yourself when you don't always make this extraordinarily high mark. Don Miguel Ruiz tells us this in the pages of the Four Agreements. Always do your best. No more and no less, but keep in mind that your best is never going to be the same from one moment to the next. Everything is alive and changing all the time, so your best will sometimes be high quality and other times not as good. All right, I've been doing this spiritual practice for many, 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 many years. But this morning, it's like, I think I'm stepping into a new space. I thought, I wonder if I could actually perform a miracle in front of the entire congregation of Unity on the Bay. So here we go. I need you to give me lots of support now, energetic support, as I perform an amazing miracle right before your eyes. Excuse me. Here we go. Thank you. Pretty cool, huh? You know, I always thought he was strange, you're thinking right now, but that's about the strangest thing I've ever seen him do. Say he's going to perform a miracle and then just walk across the stage. Think about this for a moment, my friends. Think back in time, if you can go that far, to when you were, not that we're old or anything, but go back to when you were a toddler and you were trying to take your first steps. Did you just stand up one day and start walking around the room? No, you didn't. You got up and you fell down, and you got up and you fell down, and you got up and you fell down. And if every time you had fallen down, you would just beat yourself to smithereens, you wouldn't be here today. What did you do? You got back up. So you didn't make the mark all the time. You got back up. And today you're performing something quite easily that you couldn't have performed when you were that little toddler seeking to take your first step. Walking is miraculous. And the way you got from not walking into walking, the way you got from not living into living, is by practicing and supporting yourself when maybe you missed a step or two or three or four. And the same thing applies to you in this spiritual practice. Some days you're going to fly through it, and some days you won't. Some days you won't make a single assumption. You won't take anything personally. And the next day, all of it will seem to matter more to you. I love the story of a young man who was with his retriever. I used to have a black lab retriever. He had his dog with him, and he was in the park, and they were engaged in one of their favorite activities, which was where the young man would toss a Frisbee out into the open air, and his retriever, of course, would go retrieve it and bring it back to him. And they'd play this over and over and over again. It was always a lot of fun, very relaxing. And then one day, as the young man tossed his Frisbee out into the open air, an undercurrent grabbed it and drove it over to the middle of a small lake where it landed on the surface of the water. In that moment, the retriever headed toward the Frisbee, and when it arrived at the lake, it actually walked on water to the middle of the lake so that it could retrieve the Frisbee and bring it back to the young man. And this guy had owned this dog for years, but he had never seen the likes of anything like this. So he called over his friend who was standing nearby, and he said, "Check this out. You're not going to believe it. I've got the most amazing dog in the world." And he deliberately tosses the Frisbee out over the lake where it lands on the surface of the water, and once again the retriever walks on water out to the middle of the lake to retrieve the Frisbee and brings it back. And the young man turns to his friend, and he says, "Isn't that amazing?" And his friend said, "Yeah, it is amazing that your dog can't swim." So think about that. There are miracles going on all the time, and we're missing them completely. What do you mean my dog can't swim? My dog just walked on water. See, it all depends on what you're looking at. Are you with me on this? It depends on what you're looking at. Are you looking for the dog that's walking on water, or are you looking for the dog that cannot swim? It's an important question to ask ourselves. Don Miguel goes on to say, always do your best. No more, no less. But keep in mind that your best is never going to be the same from one moment to the next. Everything is alive and changing all the time, so your best will sometimes be high quality and other times not so good. Practice makes the master. By doing your best, you become a master. Everything you have ever learned, you learned to do through repetition. It's the same way with moving your life in congruency to spiritual principles. It's been my experience that there are two ways we can master anything. And I've done them both. So I have a recommendation, but I'll hold off on it until I share with you these two ways. One of them is that you can master something through your own motivation. And the other is that you can master something through your own inspiration. Now, motivation is labor-intensive. Motivation has to do with, I am not ever going to take another thing personally again. As long as I live, it doesn't matter what happens here. I'm not going to. And you're trying to make something happen. You're trying to make a shift occur in your behavior. You're trying to make a redefinition of yourself in your mind. And you can meet with a certain level of success in that endeavor through motivation. But how much easier it is to be inspired into action. Inspiring doesn't have to do with making anything happen. It has to do with allowing that which is seeking to happen within you to occur. And what's seeking to happen within you right now this morning, I believe, is an act of remembrance. An act of remembrance. Remembering, gently and lovingly remembering that you have a natural way of being in this world. And right now to you in the room, it may not seem natural because you have been, as Miguel informs us, you have been domesticated by a human conditioning process we all have. But that human conditioning process is not your natural way of being. In fact, it takes a lot of energy to live up to the expectations of people and institutions and social ideals around you. It's much easier to back off and recognize that you don't have to make anything happen for your own spiritual transformation. You can just allow it. Because I guarantee you, my friends, there's something inside of you, your natural self, your original self, your God self, that knows exactly how this game needs to unfold if you'll just make the way through which it can happen. And you do that by allowing. You do that by receiving inspiration and then acting out of it. So what you're practicing here is not something new. You're not trying or seeking to become something that you're not. You're open to becoming that which you have always been. The enlightened self that never has abandoned you still dwells within you. And it's waiting for your recognition. It's a simple, gentle, effortless act of allowance that it may come forth. So I leave you this morning, or this afternoon as the case may be, by about 14 or 15 minutes, with this understanding, as we review one more time these 4 agreements. This is not something you have to strive to become. This is something you already are. You simply need to open yourself to be available to the activity of Spirit to let it happen. Number 1, be impeccable with your word. You are by nature a person of integrity, my friends. Remember, you're made in the image and likeness of God. So you're made in integrity. That is your natural self. You're not an individual of compromise. You don't water down that which is rooted at the core of your being to accommodate other people or circumstances. You're created to live in integrity. Number 2, don't take anything personally. We are, each and every one of us, compassionate by nature. There's something in you that is as gentle as a newborn child. It's never left you. You just have to remember that it's there. You're not self-absorbed. You were never brought into this planet so that you could recognize it was all about you. You're here to recognize that it's all about everybody, and that we need to be loving, and that we need to be compassionate. We need to be sensitive and understanding with every component that makes up our world. Don't make assumptions. You are, by nature, a person of truth. And when you speak and share and live the truth that you know, you feel fantastic. It's only when you seek out of the human domestication to be something that you're not that things become unnatural, difficult, challenging. You're naturally a person of truth, not conjecture. And always do your best. We are all naturally persons of practice. And if nobody in this room has told you today, please allow me to be the first. Our destiny is one of remembering and living the master that we already are. You are a master of cosmic forces that drive an entire universe, my friends. You're a master of this. You're a master creator. You are a master that would never even consider taking anything personally for a moment. You're a master who always speaks in 100% integrity with the truth that you have not forgotten, that still resides at the center of your being. You're a master of the truth, and you find great astonishment and amazement in observing that truth as it sets you free. God bless you.
What an incredible message, huh? You were in the presence of miracles this morning, Unity on the Bay. Reverend Chris walking across the platform and me not tripping over this dress. It is now time for our prosperity opportunity. We are so blessed to be spiritually fed by the music and the message this morning. And if you want to be in the flow of not only receiving but giving, now is your opportunity to give back to this incredible community that you are a part of. We have giving envelopes in front of you. If you want to go green, you can also text UOTB to 73256. That's UOTB to 73256. We'll put that number on the screens, hopefully. Giving is a sacred demonstration of your prosperity, so I'm going to give you a few moments in silence to prepare your gift. We thank you so much for your gift. Let's bless these gifts together. Put your phone or your gift to your heart and say, divine love that I am, blesses all that I give and all that I receive.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay, a spiritual community located in Miami, Florida. Unity on the Bay is supported by the generosity of its community. If you'd like to make a donation or learn more about Unity on the Bay, please visit unityonthebay.org. You can also follow Unity on the Bay on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for even more positive spiritual inspiration. Until next time, thanks for listening and many blessings. Namaste.